struggle, resolve, pain, courage, adversity, victory. Steadfast companions through an 80-year journey of the Washington Redskins. A winding path, tradition-rich, renewed each year with one unyielding purpose: to reach the shores of football's promised land. Some have gloried in reaching that destination. Others helped pave the way. They sparked our pride, stirred our souls, inspired our devotion to the banner of Burgundy and Gold. 10 years ago, 70 names were selected to form a fraternity of the Redskins' greatest warriors. 80 years on, 10 more names will be inscribed on pillars of the Pantheon. 10 for 80. The 80 greatest Redskins of all time. When the list of 70 greatest Redskins was compiled in 2002, 13 were offensive linemen. The 10 for 80 will add to this group, a legacy born in the pounding play of Hall of Famer Turk Edwards. Nicknamed the Rock of Gibraltar, this human steamroller was as important to the Redskins' first championship as stars Sammy Baugh and Cliff Battles. Center Al DeMeo also played middle linebacker and special teams, averaging nearly 60 minutes a game. Guard Dick Stanfill earned 3 Pro Bowls as a Redskin, and his passionate play once inspired a standing ovation. Guard Vince Promuto endured some of the leanest years in team history, but week after week, this gutsy 2-time Pro Bowler showed fans his champion's heart. Lynn Haas became the starting center 4 games into his rookie season, holding down the position 14 years and 6 Pro Bowls along the way. Guard George Stark was a cub among George Allen's over-the-hill gang. By the time Joe Gibbs arrived, Stark was elder statesman of pro football's most famous group of linemen, the Hogs, fanning the fervor of an almost religious movement. If that movement had a trinity, it was center Jeff Bostic, tackle Joe Jacoby, and guard Russ Grimm. As undrafted free agents, Bostic and Jacoby came to the NFL as paupers. They left as all-pro Redskins royalty. Grimm would bloody the path into the Hall of Fame, leaving behind beat-up and broken defenders along a trail of defeat.
The thing they forgot is before Hall goes to the butcher, somebody got to kill it, and nobody even come close today.
Pro Bowl guard and tackle Mark May was their partner in swine. May was known for his stoic intelligence and high-voltage intensity. Raleigh McKenzie, a versatility specialist. During his career, McKenzie played tackle, he played center and guard. Ed Simmons built a reputation as a tackle of reliable durability. Though his teams ranged from champions to cellar dwellers, Simmons' quality of play was top grade always. Pro Bowl tackle Jim Lachey, the perfect concoction of brain and brawn. Lachey stoked the confidence of teammates and torpedoed that of his opponents. As the 70 greatest now become 80, these titans, these elite of the trenches, welcome new brothers, beginning with a man who gave fans of the 70s a premonition of things to come. Before the Hogs, there was Hermeling. Terry Hermeling joined the Redskins as an undrafted free agent in 1970. 10 years later, when the rock-like left tackle retired, he had notched 120 games. The 6'5", 255-pound wrecking ball cleared lanes for backs like Brown and Riggins and kept snarling defenders off the backs of Jurgensen, Kilmer, and Theismann. Now Hermeling leads the charge of offensive linemen, joining the 10 for 80, and he's followed by a man with undeniable strands of Hog DNA. John Janssen was drafted in 1999. In his first 5 years with the Redskins, Janssen missed one offensive snap.
You want to talk about somebody that's a road grader, somebody that would get after you. I think John was a perfect right tackle, very vocal leader.
Every play, let's go! We beat their ass! Let's go win all three! 1, 2, 3, win!
You spend your whole life, you know, shooting for things and shooting for goals, and you never think of what could happen at the end, and to finally have it all end and then be recognized as one of the greatest is something that I'll never fully probably recognize.
A year after Janssen's arrival, the line was bookended by a man who would have excelled in any era. Chris Samuels, drafted 3rd overall in 2000, immediately became a quarterback's best friend, starting left tackle.
Get ready to play, baby. Big day today.
6 of Samuel's 10 years were Pro Bowl campaigns. All showcased his heart, grit, and consistency in the most physical division in football.
He was an exceptional athlete. Not only that, though, he could run block, he could do it all.
When you look at the perfect teammate, the perfect leader, the perfect friend, Chris Samuels would fit that mold.
Don't nobody believe but us. Y'all look each other in the eye. Look your teammate in the eye.
Among this group of legendary linemen, all but 6 were coached by one man. Joe Bugle arrived in 1981, bristling with fiery enthusiasm for the Joe Gibbs coaching staff. By year's end, Bugle's young offensive line was gaining respect for wickedly tough play. As the Redskins entered training camp before year 2, an off-the-cuff Bugle remark brought his plus-sized pupils recognition of a different kind.
Just happened one day at practice at summer camp. I said, okay, you hogs, let's get down to the bullpen down there. And the guys kind of chuckled about it.
That nickname really caught fire, especially in our community.
Offensive linemen? Superstars? Unthinkable. But it wasn't hype and marketing that kept them in the spotlight. Oh no. Bugle had shaped his unit into a lethal, feared, and dominating force. On their tear through the 1982 postseason, they were on a singular mission, driven by a play forever in Redskins lore.
Goal line, eye left, tight wing, 70 chip on white, ready?
Riggins. He's going to go all the way, unless Blackwood can catch him, and he can't.
Joe Bugle was able to get all those guys to play at a Hall of Fame level. When I left, they actually probably got better.
By Super Bowl 22, Bugle's Hogs seemed like men among boys, forcing their will on the Broncos, clearing canyon-sized lanes, leading to a second Super Bowl title.
Joe Bugle, the line coach. What a job he's done.
In 1990, Bugle hit the road to Phoenix. 14 years later, that road would bring him home.
Are you wearing a Redskins jacket?
Hey, you better believe it, Boss Hog. And look, George, right here, Sonny. We're back. That's great.
Bugle's line helped the Redskins produce a 1,000-yard rusher for 5 straight seasons and brought Clinton Portis within smelling distance of the franchise rushing record.
Good drive. We went down there and did it. We got the run game going.
In 2010, Boss Hog stepped down for good, warmed and comforted by memories of hard-won glory and the endless love of adoring fans. We will never forget.
This will be back. I promise you, this will be back.
Which running back will be welcomed to the most hallowed halls of Redskins history? Find out when 10 for 80 returns. 10 for 80 is brought to you by Geico. To review, 12 running backs made the 70 greatest squad in 2002, and always there's the first in franchise history. In his 1932 rookie season, Hall of Famer Cliff Battles led the league in rushing. In his final season, 5 years later, he led the Redskins to their first championship. How about this guy? Anvil Andy Farkas. From 1938 to 39, Anvil was tops in rushing and scoring. Don Bossler was the franchise rushing leader when he retired in 1964. Nicknamed Bull for his charging style, this Pro Bowler played 7 bruising seasons. Charlie Choo Choo Justice may have had the name of some Wild West character, but this is no exaggeration. His career was electrifying, ranking number 3 on the franchise rushing list until injuries forced retirement. Bill Dudley traveled the Hall of Fame highway, making Washington his 3rd and final team on the journey. Dudley led the Redskins in scoring each of his 3 years. In the 50s and early 60s, there were more boos than bravos for the underachieving Redskins. Unwritten law said no one booed Dickie James.
Little Dynamite Dick James has been a consistently fine and exciting performer since the first time he donned the war paint.
James's heart and fight were bigger than his stature, and fans treasured him. Larry Brown's bruising and brutal style was career-shortening. Even so, his records of legacy will stretch forever. A 4-time Pro Bowler and league MVP in 1972, this Redskin was the first to rush for more than 1,000 yards in a season. When he retired, he was the team's top rusher. John Riggins, notoriously comfortable lugging would-be tacklers on his back. That's where he put his team and championship dreams of Redskins Nation in 1982. This future Hall of Famer delivered the payload, the franchise's first Super Bowl title. If Riggins wore down defenses, slipping past them with high step and stealth, teammate Joe Washington, now you see him, now you don't. His clutch performance in 1982, another key piece of the team's Super Bowl puzzle. Ahead in league touches in 1990, Ernest Biner. A year later, he scored the Redskins' first points of Super Bowl 26. This all-pro and all-around leader returned as running backs coach in 2004. Former Viking Terry Allen earned his first Pro Bowl as a Redskin in 1996. And twice during his 4 years in Washington, he had more than 1,300 rushing yards. These running backs, a storied group, now they're about to have company. When Clinton Portis arrived in 2004, skeptics questioned his ability to carry the load in Joe Gibbs' no-frills power assault. Portis responded with his first carry, a 64-yard burst that punched him in the end zone and the hearts of rejuvenated fans.
He was physical. He would hunt people down in there on pass protection. He would protect his teammates. And here's the other thing, on Sundays, when you looked in the eyes, you knew, I'm here to play.
Portis set a franchise record in 2005, rushing for more than 1,500 yards. Individual success on the ground, but the team, at 5-6 late in the season, appeared grounded. Just as Riggins strapped the team on his back, now number 26 carried the load. In the 2005 regular season finale, with a playoff berth on the line, Portis was platinum, proving his worth, silencing his critics, sparking a celebration revival of Redskins faithful, a spreading wildfire of enthusiasm. Those flames flickered to grief in 2007, the death of Sean Taylor. To honor his best friend, Clinton Portis rallied all he had. This tribute performance helped push the Redskins into the playoffs and helped franchise and fans try to heal. The following year, Portis rushed for nearly 1,500 yards, earning his first Pro Bowl as a Redskin. Then, injuries happened, more and lasted longer. After the 2010 season, Portis was released just 648 yards from John Riggins' franchise rushing record.
I think my career as a Redskin was great. I think I came here as a 22-year-old beginning to understand life, and I left as a 30-year-old grown man.
Because of the sum of his work, Clinton Portis is embraced for all time as one of the greatest Redskins. Coming up, some of the greatest coaches in league history, and the man who helped one of them build Camelot. 10 for 80 is brought to you by KFC. Never is a team truly great without a great head coach. No new head coaches were selected in the 10 for 80 vote, keeping the three chosen a decade before the only ones on the Mount Rushmore of Redskins commanders. Ray Flaherty headed the Boston Redskins in 1936, but when the Redskins moved to Washington in 1937, he led the team to its first title, 28-21, over the Chicago Bears. His eye for talent was practically bionic, loading up with future legends like Mike Wayne Milner, Andy Farkas, and Sammy Baugh. In 1942, Flaherty's Redskins faced the heavily favored Bears in another championship showdown. The result? A 14-6 upset, making D.C. a title town once again. The Redskins fell off through the 50s and 60s. Then, in 1971, George Allen came to town.
Are those guys in for a surprise?
The future is now. Allen's call to arms. Youth moved aside for experience.
That's okay.
Squirming. The fans were squirming over his style, but by season's end, the Redskins in the playoffs for the first time in a quarter century. The fans all aboard, and the over-the-hill gang a sensation. December 31st, 1972. Redskins and Cowboys, the NFC title. Time for the league's oldest team to bang in the new year with pounding style. Allen would enter the Hall of Fame in 1992. He never won a championship in Washington, but he led them to the mountain, clearing the way for a young upstart to climb it and plant the flag. Joe who? That question was asked a lot in 1981 when Joe Jackson Gibbs became the new leader. His name would become legend. But after an 0-5 start, it almost became a footnote. In Week 6, a sprinkle of triumph eased the drought, and then a decade-long downpour of victory. Gibbs earned 3 Super Bowl titles with 3 different quarterbacks. That feat may never be equaled. After the 1992 season, Gibbs retired, third winningest coach in NFL history. 4 years later, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And then he came back.
I'd just like to introduce the head coach and team president of the Washington Redskins, Joe Gibbs.
Gibbs shaped these new Redskins into tough, battle-hardened warriors, like his early squads. He led this group to the playoffs in 2 of his 4 seasons. No championship for Gibbs' second term. But by the time he retired for good, once again, his hands had helped restore team pride. Not a player, not a coach, but General Manager Bobby Beathard, valuable team member behind the franchise renaissance. Now he's one of the 10 for 80.
Bobby could look at a player and say, we got to have that guy. Sometimes he'd freak out. He'd get me all worked up. You know what I mean? We got to get him. We got to go. It could be like 11th round draft choices. But Bobby had a lot to do with, I think, our success.
Consider what happened in the 1987 strike. With no labor settlement, the NFL scrambled to keep the season alive with replacement players on hopefully competitive teams.
It was almost like forming a new league, but you had to do it in 10 days.
Before the strike ended, Beathard's creation had a 3-0 record, including a Monday Night Football humiliation of a Cowboys team loaded with veterans. In 1990, Beathard returned to his native San Diego. 1 year later, his impact as GM still mattered. In 1991, the Redskins team of players mostly signed by Beathard won Washington's 3rd Super Bowl title. Up next, Is the list of linebackers on the all-time roster ready to grow? 10 for 80 is brought to you by Sport and Health. In the early 70s, George Allen revolutionized the concept of special teams play, a franchise crown jewel. 5 legends reside on the list of all-time greats. Punter Mike Bragg. He holds the record for most punts in franchise history. In 1976, he landed 29 punts inside the 20-yard line. Rusty Tillman, a good soldier at linebacker, but on special teams they called him the King. Tillman played 7 different positions on the unit and was captain 4 years. Kicker Mark Moseley is the Redskins' all-time scoring leader, responsible for more than 1,200 points. In 1982, he kicked the Redskins into the playoffs, setting an NFL record for consecutive field goals. Moseley became the only kicker in NFL history to be named League MVP. Mike Nems was a 3-time Pro Bowler. He made every punt or kick return a can't-miss event. And his disdain for the fair catch earned him notoriety as the NFL's bravest return man.
My job was to get the team the best field position possible. Okay. I can't do that by fair catching.
Like Nems, Brian Mitchell knew only one direction, straight ahead. His all-purpose yards total ranks first in Redskins history, second in league history. Despite especially worthy candidates, this list of outstanding players on special teams prevails.
We are the difference makers. Let's go ahead and make a difference.
Among the current list of greatest Redskins, a collection of linebackers who made offensive destruction an art form. Chuck Drozanovich was one of the first middle linebackers in the NFL. The 4-time Pro Bowler was voted the Redskins MVP in 1957. Sam Huff helped define the middle linebacker position. During his time in Washington, the Hall of Fame legend helped the Redskins remember how to win. Hall of Famer Chris Hanberger earned 9 Pro Bowls. Nicknamed the Hangman, he was one of the most feared players in the league. Harold McClinton was handpicked by Vince Lombardi. His dominant play, a key factor in the Redskins' NFC Championship run in 1972. Neil Olkowitz racked up more than 1,500 tackles during his 10-year career. He was named the Redskins' defensive MVP in 1988.
Time to get back on the top. Starting today.
Monty Coleman, the Iron Man, is one of only 3 players to wear the Burgundy and Gold for 16 years or more. His 217 games as a Redskin is second only to Darrell Green. Wilbur Marshall registered more than 100 tackles in each of his 5 Redskin seasons. His superior play set the pace for the championship defense of 1991. Ken Harvey's 5 years in Washington earned him 4 Pro Bowls. On a young rebuilding team, Harvey's example was the blueprint for success. Joining this fearsome guild of greats is a man who specialized in havoc wreaking, LeVar Arrington.
Let's show off tonight, fella. Plain as that, plain and simple.
This 3-time Pro Bowler wasted no time making a name for himself with his highlight reel hits.
Catch your breath, catch your breath.
But in 2001, Arrington evolved into the team's emotional leader. Under new head coach Marty Schottenheimer, the 0-5 Redskins were staring into the abyss of 0-6. That's when Arrington turned the tide. His pick 6 was like water to desert-parched lips. Re-energized, the Redskins won the game and turned around their season. In 2002, Arrington's 11-sack performance was another career highlight. And his thrilling fumble recovery in the end zone against Dallas helped the Redskins end a long losing streak to their perennial rival. Arrington's body of work sits proudly alongside the greats he now joins. Up next, meet wide receivers and tight ends on the list of all-time greats. Are they ready for company? Listed among all-time Redskin greats are 7 defensive linemen, their reputations built on destruction. Gene Brito's appeal crossed party lines. Both Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy named the 5-time Pro Bowler their favorite player. Bill Brundage, a product of Vince Lombardi's final draft, played 7 years as a defensive end. He ranks number 6 on the Redskins' all-time sack list. Ron McDowell, the Dancing Bear, holds the NFL record for interceptions by a defensive lineman with 13. His stout presence on the line was a mainstay of George Allen's snarling defenses. Pro Bowl tackle Darren Talbert loved fanning the flames of Redskins-Cowboys rivalry. Talbert backed up his talk by consistent, ferocious play. Dave Butts, 2 syllables that trigger memories of battle-scarred helmets and blue-collar power. In 16 years, Butts missed only 4 games, much to the bruising discomfort of the offensive players, terrorized by this 6'7", 300-pound All-Pro. Just saying the name Dexter Manley brings a smile, both for his big personality and lasting memories of greatness, marking the legacy of this team's all-time sack leader.
You know, my idols were people like Muhammad Ali, talk a lot, but you got to back it up.
Facing a defensive line bookended by Manley and Charles Mann, left offenses ready to wave the white flag. Mann started in 4 Pro Bowls and ranked second to Manley in total sacks. There are many worthy greats in waiting, but there are no defensive linemen among the 10 for 80. Just as an offense depends on the quarterback, a quarterback depends on the hands of his wide receivers. 7 are on the list of all-time greats, including Hall of Fame legend Wayne Milner. Milner's blockbuster performance in the 1937 NFL Championship, including touchdowns of 55 and 78 yards, cemented the legacy of Sammy Baugh's favorite target. In his first game as a rookie, Hugh Bones Taylor set an NFL record with 212 receiving yards. Starting in 1949, this 2-time Pro Bowler led the Redskins in receptions each year until he retired in 1954. Hall of Famer Bobby Mitchell, a man of franchise firsts. First African-American starter, first to eclipse 1,000 yards in receptions, and first in nearly every receiving category when he retired. Charlie Taylor, 8 Pro Bowl stops on his way to Canton. By the end of his career, the NFL's all-time receptions leader.
Charlie Taylor pulls it in.
Taylor's franchise records were broken by Art Monk, whose sights were set on even higher targets. In 1984, he broke the NFL record for catches in a season, and in '92, like Taylor before him, he caught the pass that set a new standard: most receptions in NFL history. In 2009, Monk finally was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Gary Clark's fiery intensity was the opposite of Monk's ice water cool, but Clark's performance so productive. This 4-time Pro Bowler 72-yard per game average is tops in team history.
Damn, that was sweet. Rip, 2 back. Don't underthrow.
Where's Ricky Sanders?
Here he comes.
Ricky Sanders was brought to Washington as a deep threat. That decision paid off in Super Bowl 22. Sanders set Super Bowl records in receiving yards, touchdowns in a quarter, and longest touchdown reception. A tight end can be as effective in the trenches as he is in the open field, and 2 currently stand with the all-time greats. All-Pro Jerry Smith was a sure-handed receiver. When he retired, his 60 touchdowns marked an NFL record for the position. Tight end Don Warren, one of the most important cogs in Joe Gibbs' offensive machinery. Considered one of the hogs, he started 181 games and played in 4 Super Bowls. The great wide receivers and tight ends of Redskins history form an elite college of great hands, one that's about to enroll 2 more. Roy Jefferson was traded to the Redskins in 1971, a fresh recruit for George Allen's over-the-hill gang.
Sweet Pea, as he was called, he's definitely one of the best receivers that put on a Redskins jersey.
Number 80, fearless, boldly crossing the middle with "I dare you to stop me" swagger. His speed made him most dangerous on the quick post pattern, a 10-yard sprint downfield, then a 45-degree cut toward the goalpost. The pattern became his trademark.
On that square out when I ran it, I gave him that inside move like to the post, and bye-bye again, baby.
This fan favorite earned his place among the great receivers in team history. Now, Jefferson enters more rarefied air, one of the 80 greatest Redskins of all time. Coming up, some won championships. All won our hearts. 10 for 80 continues. They are called quarterbacks. Among the list of all-time Redskin greats, some of the best to ever play the position. Beginning with slinging Sammy Baugh. In his beginning season, Baugh led the Redskins to their first world title and another in 1942. Baugh's arm strength and accuracy left opponents and fans in head-wagging awe. By the end of his trailblazing career, Baugh's accolades, including a record 6 NFL passing titles, could almost fill a warehouse. In 1943 alone, he led the league in passing, interceptions as a defender, and punting. When Baugh retired, the phrase "tough act to follow" was appropriate. "Do it your way," Baugh told his replacement. That's just what Eddie LeBaron did. He stood 5 feet 7 inches, nicknamed the Little General. Right away, folks underestimated him, but not for long. He threw 9 touchdown passes in the last 3 games of his rookie season and was named to the NFL's all-rookie team. In 1958, Eddie LeBaron led the league in passing. He made 4 Pro Bowls. The Redskins' next Hall of Fame quarterback came in a 1964 trade with the Eagles. Sonny Jurgensen was to pigskin what Picasso was to canvas. His picture-perfect strikes reignited fan fervor. When Vince Lombardi took over the Redskins in 1969, he called Jurgensen the best quarterback he'd ever seen. Jurgensen responded by leading the league in completions, completion percentage, and passing yards. Jurgensen had 5 Pro Bowls, 3 NFL passing titles, and nearly 33,000 passing yards. When Jurgensen was lost for the 1971 season, Billy Kilmer stepped in, leading the Burgundy and Gold to its first playoff appearance in nearly 3 decades. The Sonny versus Billy debate was on. 1972, Jurgensen injured again. No debate, Kilmer was the starter. And by season's end, he'd become an All-Pro, leading the Redskins to the brink of a championship. Now, true, the words Kilmer and perfect spiral rarely were in the same sentence. But Kilmer and winner, yes.
There wasn't a tougher son of a gun that ever put on a uniform than Billy Kilmer. And there wasn't a better thrower of the football than Sonny Jurgensen. Didn't know it at the time, but I was blessed to have the opportunity to play behind both those guys.
As a backup to Kilmer and Jurgensen, Joe Theismann, so desperate to be on the field, he volunteered to return punts. When Joe Gibbs arrived, it was clear where he belonged. Theismann flourished in Gibbs' innovative offense. In year 2, he did what no Redskin quarterback had done since Sammy Baugh. He led his team to a world title. Now, some critical outsiders called him arrogant.
I'm throwing the hell out of the football. It's got juice on it, you know what I mean? The ball is humping.
But to teammates, Theismann was a rock, his confidence infectious.
Joe Theismann, obviously very energetic, high intensity, loved to talk, but I'll tell you what, he was a great leader on the field.
Here we go. Give me a huddle. Come on, let's make a huddle. We'll wall around. Make it a class huddle. Let's go.
This two-time Pro Bowler remains the all-time franchise passing leader with more than 25,000 yards. Theismann spent his entire career with the Redskins, but for Doug Williams, Washington looked like the last stop on a journey to be most remembered for its time in Tampa Bay. How quickly things would change. Opening day, 1987, Williams relieves an injured Jay Schrader and leads the Redskins to a W. Through the season, Gibbs played musical quarterbacks, but come the playoffs, he went with his gut. Williams would be the starter, period. By halftime at Super Bowl 22, Gibbs' decision seemed brilliant. In the second quarter, Doug Williams lit up San Diego's sky, a record-setting aerial barrage of fireworks, including 4 touchdowns.
We did 35 points in only 18 plays. I think that is the most amazing thing about the second quarter.
Before the game, he would be the first African-American quarterback to play in a Super Bowl. When it was over, he was the first to win one and the game's most valuable player. Behind Williams was another Super Bowl MVP in waiting. 1989, Mark Rypien becomes the full-fledged starter and goes on to his first Pro Bowl. But 1991 was Rypien's year. He led the league in yards per pass attempt. He threw 28 touchdowns. He had 6 touchdowns during the 56-17 mauling of the Atlanta Falcons, tying the record set by Sammy Baugh 4 decades earlier. The Redskins stormed into Super Bowl 26 with gale force, and Rypien did not disappoint. He threw for 292 yards and 2 touchdowns. And like Williams, Rypien was named Most Valuable Player. The 10 for 80 have no names at quarterback, but the future looks promising. Very promising.
I like that.
Up next, a legendary coach gets his due and a legendary player earns a highest honor. 10 for 80 is brought to you by Geico. Playing defensive back sometimes requires a short memory, but DBs on the current list of Redskin greats aren't likely to be forgotten. In his Pro Bowl rookie season, safety Paul Krause intercepted 12 passes, including picks in 7 straight games. Cornerback Mike Bass gave up only 5 touchdowns during his 7-year career. He ranks 4th in franchise history with 30 interceptions. All-Pro Pat Fisher was a shutdown corner before the term was invented. His 5'9", 170-pound frame didn't exactly intimidate, but this fearless 20th century David brought to the ground many a Goliath. In the Redskins history books, safety Brigg Owens ranked 2nd in interceptions and 1st in interception return yards. Hall of Fame safety Ken Houston was voted to 12 straight Pro Bowls. Opponents feared his punishing hits. Fans cheered his game-changing heroics. Safety Mark Murphy, the on- and off-the-field leader of the Redskins' defensive backfield. He led the NFL in interceptions in 1983 and made 2 consecutive Pro Bowls. Cornerback Darrell Green played at an elite level for 20 years. Green is the Redskins' career interceptions leader. His legendary speed also made him a not-so-secret weapon on special teams. Green's first ballot induction into the Hall of Fame was a given, but what he gave to this franchise, to this league, will never be taken for granted. And now, a unique defensive brotherhood welcomes new brothers. Richie Pettibon was at safety for the Redskins the last 2 years of his playing career, but his 12-year reign as defensive coordinator, that's his ticket to the 10 for 80. While Joe Gibbs may have been the foundation of the Redskins dynasty, Pettibon was one of its strongest pillars. His ability to pick apart the opposition, pinpoint a weakness, and lethally exploit it was masterful. In 1983, his mauling defense forced 61 turnovers, an NFL record, And his 1991 unit posted 3 shutouts over the first 3 home games that year.
A lot of Joe Gibbs' success came on the heels of a great defense that Richie Pettibon orchestrated.
Our defense led us, and I felt like Richie, the whole staff over there, really deserve a lot of credit for what we were able to do.
Without Pettibon, the trophy case would be lacking, as with the new list of 80 greatest Redskins. As with any beloved warrior gone too soon, when thinking of Sean Taylor, you wonder what might have been. During his 3.5 years with the Redskins, Taylor did so much for fans to cherish always. In 2004, Taylor was Joe Gibbs' first draft pick, and fans embraced him from the moment he delivered his first "Did you see that?" hit.
An intimidating figure, really, is what Sean was. He was self-motivated. He wanted to be great. He just wouldn't want to be a player. He wanted to be a great player.
I think Superman is an understatement when you're thinking of Sean T.
In 2005, Taylor unveiled a lower jersey number and a heightened level of play. No longer just a headhunter, he became a game changer.
Picked up by the Redskins. Sean Taylor off to the races. He dives in for the touchdown, Redskins.
2006, Taylor earns his first Pro Bowl and helps write another chapter in Redskins Cowboys lore, returning a blocked game-winning field goal attempt. This clutch play gave the Redskins a shot at their own game winner.
It is good! It's good! It's good! I can't believe it!
The following year, Sean Taylor evolved more so. Off the field, he settled into even-keeled maturity. On the field, he was more dominant, delivering his patented pad-rattling hits and leading the league in interceptions. At midseason, a knee injury looked to sideline him temporarily. Tragically, a robbery attempt at his home turned into the murder of Sean Taylor. The unthinkable, the unhealable, the unforgettable.
One of the greatest athletes I've ever coached, and meant a lot to his team. He led by example.
Sean Taylor probably was the last of his kind. Sean was the best player in football, if you ask me, ever.
As years pass, the impression, the imprint his legacy stamped on this team's history grows ever brighter, radiating forever.
2-1. Always and forever, baby. All day. That's how we play. Forever.
Arrington, Bethard, Bugle, Hermeling, Janssen, Jefferson, Pettibon, Portis, Samuels, Taylor. 10 names chosen by Redskins Nation. 10 for 80. 10 names joining 70 to create one revered roster. These names remind us why we came. Remind us why we stay. Remind us why we believe what was will be again. 3 cheers for the next 80 years. They begin right now.